Welcome to this how-to guide. This is all about how to design a Google form for remediation. There are some great new features in Google Forms that will allow you as a teacher to provide appropriate, immediate feedback for students who are interacting with your Google form. So a lot of really cool applications. You can create some really dynamic study guides for different lesson objectives. You might provide this as a bell ringer activity or an exit ticket and provide that immediate feedback for students to learn and to grow in the content that they are studying. And so we're going to give you some tools and tricks on how to use Google Forms for remediation. All right, so let's go ahead and begin this tutorial about how to create an interactive Google form that's going to help remediate your students. So our first step here is we're going to go ahead and hit New, More, and then Google Forms. What this does is it's going to open up the Google Forms app, and you notice it'll pull up some awesome little things like here's a new feature for you. And if you read it, you can read about them, but most of the time I just hit got it and I'll just play with it later. Our second step here is we're going to change the settings. So let's click on the little sprocket. It's going to pull up the settings window. And in the settings window, I'm going to unclick restrict to Shenandoah University users. That means that it's going to allow anyone to take your form. And then we're going to click on quizzes and we're going to make this a quiz. What this does is it's going to enable you to assign point values and to automatically grade your quiz. And so at the end of it down here, respondents can see missed questions, correct answers, and point values. Make sure you hit the save button. Right, so we're about ready to begin typing awesomeness in here. So step 3 here is we're going to add a title to the form. And so here we're going to call this Remediation Templates because that's what we're going to be making. So why not call it that? And if you click up here, see where the little move to folder button is, but see where it says untitled form? If you click once, it will pull the title up there as well. So now that title is saved into your Google Drive automatically. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our first section. Our first section, all we're going to do is we're going to collect some information about our students. So right here in untitled question, I'm going to call this name. And you can see Google Forms automatically changes that to short answer, which is what I would like. I'm also going to make this required so students cannot skip this step. And you can see here that I'm going to go ahead and hit add question because we need to put some more information in here. So I'm also going to add teacher's name and it changes it to short answer and I'm going to hit required. And then last, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a block number. What this is going to do, and I don't want this short answer this time, but what this is going to do is going to help organize my students, especially if you teach multiple blocks of students. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a drop-down menu. And in my drop-down menu, I'm just going to label this block 1, block 2, and block 3. And I'm going to also make this required. And so this is going to be to create my first section just to collect information. So that's going to be step 4 for you. Let's go ahead and go on to step 5. So step 5 is we want to add a new section. So this is where we're going to start to build out our first question. So let's click add section. So you see it's right underneath of add video. And when I do that, it's going to say section 2 of 2. And what I'm going to call this, I'm going to call this question number 1 objective. And so it's going to be a way that we're going to organize every section. And you can see you can also add a description, which is optional. And you notice there are no questions yet. And so if there's no questions on yours, let's go ahead and add a question. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the multiple choice feature. And so the way we do this remediation template is you have to use multiple choice, unfortunately. I'm sure that feature will come down the road later when you can just type an answer in. But for right now, we just are given multiple choice as the feature to use. And let's go ahead and call this sample question number 1. And let's go ahead and give this a multiple choice because it changed it, thinking that I want short answer for everything. And now let's go ahead and I'm going to label these choices. So I'm going to label this first one incorrect, my second one incorrect, and then my third one correct. And so what we're going to do next, there you can see that there's an answer key for this. So if we click answer key, we can actually choose the correct answer. And you can see how it lights up green with a checkbox. We're also going to assign a point value. So I'm going to assign this a point value 4. You can assign a point value. You can assign any point value you want. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add answer feedback. So in this, you can see you're given 2 options: incorrect answers and correct answers. So for incorrect answers, I might say you made a mistake because ... and of course you're going to fill in, you give some quality incorrect feedback. For correct feedback, I might just say great job. And the cool thing about adding feedback is that there's a link button right here. And in this link button right here, you might also add maybe a video, a link to some practice here. And so for the sake of this video, we're not going to add anything here, but you can play around with that and add all kinds of awesome things to that. But in the add feedback, once you get done both of those, go ahead and hit save. And you can see your feedback box is right here. And when you're done, let's go back and hit edit question. So now we're back into this window and we're going to make this required, of course, because we want every kid to answer all of our questions. So now we just made a sample question number 1. So let's go ahead and add a new section. So every question is going to have its own section here. And so for this section, what we're going to do is we're going to label this as, question number 1, help. And in doing this, this section is actually going to be the place where we start to add some of our remediation tools. You see we haven't gone to question 2 yet. We're just focusing just on question number 1. And you notice that there's nothing underneath. And this time I'm going to go ahead and add a video. So what I want students to do is that if they miss question number 1, they're going to be given some options for some video feedback. So I'm going to look up maybe like a Math Superstars video. Let's see what pops up here. So you can do a video search here and say I can pick any kind of video I want here. So I'm going to do squares and roots because it's conveniently placed at the second video there. The good thing is you can also find it by URL. So if you have the actual URL to the video, you don't have to search. You can just use that feature. And I'm going to go and add in some video help. The cool thing about this is I can make my video as large or as small as I want. So I can always resize that. I can also add a title here if I want to for that video, but that's up to you for this one. Also, the 3 dots here is a great thing to explore. I can actually put this in the center of the screen. And then the great thing is now we're done our video help section. And so after our video help, we want to give students another opportunity to demonstrate if they figured out, fixed mistakes, all that good things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit add a new section. And we're still focused on question number 1. And so in this section, we're going to label this as new question number 1. And then the same thing, let's go ahead and create this as a multiple choice. So we're going to label this as new sample question, typing too fast, question number 1. And I can also, I want this multiple choice, thank you. And I'm going to label this maybe as correct, incorrect, incorrect. And the same thing like we did for the original question number 1, we press answer key. We're going to press the correct answer, lights up green. You can add any point value and label this as 2 points. So it's a remediation question. Add some feedback. I might say correct answer. I might say great job for fixing your mistakes. And you can add incorrect feedback, so whatever you'd like to add. And then you can hit save. Everything shows up here. And anytime you hit save, you kind of notice that all changes saved in Drive feature pops up every once in a while. That means it's automatically saved in your Google Drive. And so right now we're about halfway through this tutorial. And so you can see here that we've created question number 1 to recap. We have the question 1 help, and then we have a new question number 1. And so we are halfway there. Right now we're going to repeat steps 5, 6, and 7 that are listed here in the Google site. So I'm just going to do that in the next little part of the video. For the sake of time, what I did was I actually did steps 5, 6, and 7 a second time to create question number 2 objective, question number 2 help, and our new question number 2. So if you already have those done, right now we're going to roll into step number 8 on the Google site, and we are going to show how awesome and amazing your remediation template is going to be here in a second. So what happens is if you click on sample question number 1, so you can click anywhere, it's going to pull up the information that you put in there. What we're going to do right next to required, there are 3 dots. If we click on the 3 dots, we're going to use the feature go to section based on answer. And when we do that, it's going to give us some new features. In the new feature, if the student answers it correct, we want them to go on to the next question. So we want them to skip past question 1 help and new question number 1 and to go directly to question number 2 objective. When we do that, when a student clicks on the correct answer, they will go immediately to question number 2. If they click on the incorrect answers, it's going to take them to the next section, which is going to be the help for question number 1, and then a new question number 1 to see if they've picked up on anything in the YouTube video. What we're going to do is let's go ahead and click on objective question number 2, sample question number 2. And we can use the same feature here. So go to section based on answer. And once again, for this one, since this is our last question, if we hit continue, if you hit the correct one, let's go and click there. We want them just to submit the form at the end. So that's how they know they got the questions correct. If they just see 2 questions, they got both of them correct. And they can submit the form. If not, it's going to take them to the next section. So you guessed it, it's going to take them to question number 2 help, and then the new question number 2. Once they finish new question number 2, if you click here, and if you hit go to section based on answer, it'll take them to the next section, which is automatically submitting a form. Now you can repeat this process if you have question number 3, question number 4. You will do this until you get to the last question, in which you really don't have to have this feature available because it automatically will go to the submit button. And you can also notice too that anytime you make some major changes, all the changes are automatically saved in your drive. Now it's time to test your form. The way I do this is that if I click on the eyeball preview button, it's going to give me what this form is going to look like to my students here. And it's going to give me a URL right across the top, in which if I click on it once, it's going to highlight it. If I right click, I want to copy it. What we're going to do is we're going to create a QR code that somebody else can scan, or you can scan to your phone to test your form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to type in qrstuff.com. This is a great website to create QR codes that are fast and easy to create. And so right here, we're given some features. And right here in content, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click once, and I'm going to press right click and paste. I also use the keyboard shortcut Control V, but so you can see it, I just hit right click and paste. It creates puts the URL in there. And if I click on the QR code, it'll actually will download it. It'll give you this information. You don't have to pay for anything. But you notice here, it's going to give me a QR code preview. And so what you and a partner are going to try out right now is in your QR code reader, you're going to go ahead and scan the QR code and see if your Google form works properly. And if you followed all these steps, you will be successful and on your way to creating an amazing interactive Google form.